The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, you know what time it is on a Monday. It is just after 9 o'clock, so that means the Monday Club. There's not just two of us, but there's three of us tonight, and by the end of the show, there will be four, as the Quizmaster McGinley joins us as well for another edition of Sudden Death. That's all up. That's the only reason I'm doing the Monday Club now, Jonathan. I can't be fucked about you anymore. Not after Saturday, you nearly broke me, but the thought of Sudden Death is just too much fun, so aye. Connor Carl joins us, a wee one-off, mate. Not had John in a while. Always good to get your thoughts, mate. And there is plenty to discuss as always, guys. There's a lot in the world of Celtic. Jonathan, it was a good weekend. We were there. You seem to make a quicker recovery than me. I'll put that down to your youth as opposed to my ancientness, if that's a word. It was a good weekend at the game, wasn't it?
It certainly was a good weekend. We've just witnessed a weekend, Russell, which was a bit like theatre, you know? We were talking about theatre here, and we're talking about Act 3 as to why we have a 7-point lead at the top. Act 1, McDiarmid Park, very similar situation, Russell. Went to 1-1, thought we were dropping 2 points, salvaged it, 3 points on the board. Go to Tynecastle, get all the VAR nonsense, everything going against us. Could have easily been 3 points dropped. It was still 3 points gained. And then you look again at yesterday, and it goes back to 2 each. Dundee United and Pepper does a little bit towards the end. They had one off the line, they had one off the post. They eventually get their one going in from the corner sort of side, and then Celtic react and get themselves back in front for another 2 points salvaged. And if you do the maths over those 3 games, Russell, that adds up to 7 points. And that is why Celtic are top of the league.
Looking down on the Rangers, indeed, right now. It is definitely that way, Connor. Jonathan's intros are so good. They get you right in the zone, man. I'm like, yes. Connor, it was another important weekend. We'll be talking about, you know, what does it mean? And we might have a wee bit of fun as well with some of the phone-in stuff that happened. I know you were laughing at that earlier. But from a Celtic point of view, I'll put it really simply to you, Connor Card. That's why we are champions.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's just this massive strength that we have is the mentality of the team and the thing is, I'm like, I'll always bought into the whole "we never stop" thing, and now like it's happening so often. I'm hearing it every week. I'm like, it's kind of almost losing a wee bit of the glamour behind it because it's happening every week. And I'm like, oh, it's getting a wee bit boring now. I'll go and see he's absolutely going to scalp a team now sometime this week. But it's just it's kind of it's really it's nice to see that that the 9 times out of 10, if your team concedes a equaliser in the, I think it was the 87th minute or something like that.
87th, yep.
And you'd be sitting there thinking, oh Jesus, this is not going well. This isn't our day. This is absolutely fucked. Like, this could be us, dropping more points, or a title race going to get a bit closer. But it's just the absolute powerhouse of team that we've got, and the mentality and the strength behind them to go and not score another goal, but go and score 2.
Connor, you're absolutely right. There's the Celtic domestically, and at the end of the day, as I say, I've had my moans about Europe recently. It is a bugbear of mine, but we also have to credit, where Celtic are domestically. And I think obviously Postecoglou's took it again to another level, but we've got this domestically. Our mindset, our mentality is just on a different breed. We are going to be talking a bit about that. And I wanted your thoughts on some of Angie's comments after the game. He was quite animated talking about VAR. I like that. And I like the fact he was extremely confident that we would go out and get the 3 points, even after that 87th minute goal that Connor touches on. Before we get stuck into it all, of course, it's been another crazy busy week on the bus. So a massive thank you. I mean, we thought we were getting derailed and all that nonsense. Well, unfortunately, it's been one of the busiest weekends yet again. Another busy month. We have had loads of people on, and a big thank you to each and every one of you. And obviously, if you are on the bus right now, like 64 already of you are, remember to make sure you're hitting that like button. Remember to sure you're giving us a wee share somewhere. If you've not subscribed already and joined the 3,000 others that have, because we surpassed that goal, which I'm delighted about as well. Well, I'm sure we all are delighted or humbled by it as well. Make sure you hit subscribe if you've not already, and keep the comments going. I know you always do anyway, because that is what makes the bus. If you want to become a Boyce'S member, like so many of you have, like Brown Warrior, for example, in there, Paul Dyatt, Phil McGinley, although he really shouldn't need to do that.
Phil McGinley. Of all the people you could have picked.
I was going through the members. I was just like, who the fuck's he one? Celts on the Hill, Gary Brown. There's loads of yous in there that are members. So a big thank you for that as well. And it does keep the channel going. We are going to be using Jonathan, again, as I've always promised, to try and reinvest if we make a wee bit of money one month, and I'm talking, as I always remind you, pounds and pence. I mean, as long as we can pay for the subscriptions, I'm happy. But there might be a wee bit that's gathered up now, Jonathan. So I booked out G4 Claims. A big thank you to them. We've booked the recording studio. And that's all money organically raised. And we are going to do a 1-year anniversary pod from the G4 Claims studio on the 4th of December. I'd love to say I'll spend ages editing it and all that, but I don't really know how. So it'll be whatever form we are on is what you will see. But it'll be quite cool doing it in a different scenario and giving us a wee different flavour. But anyway, enough of all that self-indulgent bullshit, because that's not why we're here. Jonathan, it was 4-2. We left it late. Ange Postecoglou said, this is what we do. He says, dare I say it, we don't stop. He even said that in one of his interviews, which I thought was very good. There's a mentality to this team that it doesn't matter when that equaliser goes in by the opposition. We were attacking, for example, Real Madrid. I'm talking about Europe again already. But we were 5-1 down. And we were still in waves of attack, even at the final minute of the Bernabeu. So it's undeniable. What we do with this team is we play till, and we'll talk about VAR in a wee bit, but it could be the 96th, 97th, 98th minute as the new norm, the new normal. As remember that COVID terminology they used to use. One thing that is not a new normal is Celtic picking up 3 points domestically. Jonathan, done it again.
Yeah, and it was a strange one. I think Chris made the comment there that you just had up a moment or two ago, and he actually said in that he believed that Celtic were always going to win that, even when it went back to 2-2. And I'm quite glad he said that, because I thought it was just my Long Island iced teas kicking in when I was watching
Oh,
that. When they
we've had a few of them.
when they equalised to get to 2 each, I was relatively calm. I don't know if I realised quite how less time was left on the clock at that particular moment.
Looking at the scoreboard with one eye, Jonathan can do that.
I was like, I didn't really understand what the fuss is. We're still going to go on and win this. I was still relatively confident, and I think that does speak volumes for how the players have performed this season. Is that they don't know when they're beat, they don't accept when they're going to be dropping points, and it'd been very easy for Celtic to have fizzled that one out to each straw, and their heads still went down. They conceded that late, but it goes back to what I said. They already shown against St Johnstone earlier this season that they have that mentality, and that was in a game where we didn't perform well at all. I thought yesterday we weren't terrible. We were okay. I think that was probably the best way of describing it. We were okay. We probably did enough to win the game, but it wasn't a classic by any stretch of the imagination. If it had fizzled out at 2-1, like it looked like it was going to do for large periods in that game. Obviously, there's more controversy again with VAR, a couple of decisions which we have to overcome, which is a common theme, and it's something I don't want to spend too much time talking about, but I'm going to mention it because I think it's important that in the games that Celtic have been involved in so far with VAR domestically, Celtic have yet to have a big decision go their way in a game-changing moment. I think they've had about 2 or 3 probably now go against them in these sort of moments as well. It could have ended up changing the way games played out, and I think the penalty completely halted the momentum we had as well at that moment in time. So there was more of a knock-on effect, not just the fact that put us back on level terms, but I thought we took a little bit longer to respond to having to go through that sort of long delayed process of the penalty being awarded. So again, something to take away from, but this team just don't stop believing, do they? They always find a way. And I think even though VAR, I think so far has not benefited Celtic, which doesn't surprise me overly, Celtic aren't going to use that as an excuse. But it was interesting, Russ, I don't know if you've seen, Ange Postecoglou was actually down by the fourth official when the penalty was given. It's the first time I've seen him that animated over a decision. And I think that's an eye-opener because Ange Postecoglou is probably the calmest man in Celtic Park most of the time, regardless of how things are going. He was probably the first man who knew when it went back to 2 each, Ange Postecoglou, Celtic were going to win that game anyway. But it was interesting, was it not, when you've seen that sort of reaction from, is this the beginning of a turn perhaps in Ange's behaviour towards these refereeing decisions? Because I know you're going to touch upon the post-match, but I think even just looking at the game itself, it's probably the first time I've seen him down by the fourth official and actually in his ear looking a bit pissed off. Are we about to see Ange Postecoglou calling out these refereeing decisions a bit more?
Well, Connor, I'll come to you because Ange was undeniably animated when he was talking about VAR, but I don't know if so much you're going to see a difference in his persona with it. I think what he felt, though, has been Celtic and VAR, unsurprisingly, we all could have predicted this, by the way. I think Ange likes to play it down, but he's like, fucking hell, those bastards were all right. You know, there definitely is going to be, you know, a bit of a soap opera here having VAR associated with our club. And I generally just think that Ange has decided to nip it in the bud. So what he actually did, when you listen to the content, what he was saying, Connor, was, you know, 3.5 minutes to make a decision. They're trying to get involved too much. I think he said something like he was worried that it was like when you get a new toy and you can't put it down. Because I think VAR's a wee bit like that. They just want to be involved in the game a wee bit too much. But when you actually listen to what else he said, he's going, just let them play football. Make a decision, we move on. He goes, see if the decision, I view it differently from someone else. You'd never hear me moan about that. That's up to them. If they've seen it, they've watched it. He goes, if it's clear and obvious, it doesn't take 4 minutes to make the call. Simple as that. He goes, get on with the game. He goes, today we couldn't get in our rhythm. And I think that's what was going on with these comments. Do you think Jonathan's got a point? Do you think Ange is going to fall in the trap of becoming more animated? I'll be honest, I don't see it. I just think he's had to do something to lay down some sort of marker here, because I think he's in fear of this turning into a complete circus if I don't say something. But a lot of his rhetoric was more just about, let the lads play football. I'm here to watch the football. People, he even said people here to be entertained, not stop-start stuff. So he wasn't even making it like, I think he said about our sort of momentum and stuff and the pace we play at, but I think it was quite clever that he did it on the back of a win. And what he said, a lot of it was to do with just the sporting aspect of it. Like, this is a sport. Folk go to watch the action, not watch dafties in a van taking 10 minutes to make simple decisions.
Yeah, I think with Ange, I think he's kind of just I think he's not. I think he's kind of giving them a little like a nudge, like a little elbow in the ribs, and just saying like, right, come on, you got to like. Scottish football is fucking mental to begin with, and VAR is just throwing fuel into the fire, in my opinion. And it's making it, it's exacerbating the issues that many fans, and not just Celtic fans, the other clubs as well.
Tell me that word again, Connor. What was that word?
Exacerbate.
I was thinking, fuck this, am I on countdown or something? I was thinking that as well.
That's the first time that word's been said on the bus. I can't even spell exacerbate, but that was good. Sorry, mate.
Glad you said that, because I was thinking the exact same thing.
You fucking made me lose my train of thought.
Sorry, mate. We're talking about VAR and exacerbating the madness of Scottish football.
I think it's fans other clubs are pointing out as well. You know, seen the decision with Aberdeen go against for Aberdeen go against Hibs. You know, so and there was, you know, I think Motherwell fans weren't too happy either with Hearts, one of the decisions they got yesterday as well. Yep. But it's just it's already a circus in my eyes. It's too late now. Like the fence doors open, the horse is bolted already, and I think Angie's trying to fucking pull the reins in a wee bit and just say, right, calm down a bit. I was watching
You nailed it, mate. You're absolutely spot on there, Connor.
I think it was. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Newcastle. I can't remember who Newcastle were playing. I think it was Southampton.
Just got Southampton the weekend.
Hasn't who was just been sacked. I was watching Newcastle play Southampton, and there was a VAR check, and it took I think less than 30 seconds. And I think it was for maybe a potential pen. I can't remember what it was. It was a VAR check, and for something potentially, you know, that could change the course of the game. It took them roughly 30 seconds. If that decision gets made in Scotland, it takes them about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And
do you think that could change?
Are the referees correctly adding on the time that they're taking for VAR decisions onto the extra time of the game? I don't know if they are.
Well, that's one point. I think as well. See, the thing is with the decision-making process, we also need to, if we can take off the green-tinted glasses for a second, the green-tinted glasses, exasperated.
Well, you've exasperated those glasses, by the way.
Exasperated that one, whatever that word was. But I think we also had to accept there was going to be a longer decision-making process than a VAR in another country that's been there for a few years. However, I also think the volume of decisions they're getting involved in, that's what the stop-start nature that Andrew's referring to is. And I think, yes, we would expect it to be a bit longer. I think some of these delays are taking the piss. Like, because really, I think anyway, VAR is meant to be there. This is my idea of it anyway. If it's clear and obvious. If it's clear and obvious, then that is something you should be able, with the benefit of these replays and the slow motions and the stills, to do that in 2 takes. Watch it. Right, definitely. If it's getting to 3-4 minutes, are you looking for something? Like, you're then looking for something. I don't think that's natural, and I don't think that's what VAR's there to happen. Like, I think it's meant to be, well, as far as I understood, it was clear and obvious. You need a second set of eyes. You might have missed something here. Watch it, and then go, right, you did miss something. Go have a look at it. Whereas instead, they're studying it for 4 minutes and then telling the referee to go have a look.
And so we're wrong half the time.
And that can't be, but that can't be what VAR was set out for, Connor, can it?
I mean, put it this way: there's fucking people on Twitter, supporters who are taking screen grabs and finding the footage and saying, "This is what you should have been looking at." It took me 10 seconds to notice this. For instance, the penalty yesterday, which was never a penalty, with Bernabe, the ball's behind him. He's trying to header the ball, and his arms behind his back. I don't know how the VAR officials don't see the Motherwell player right next to him with his arm in the exact same fucking position. It was a mirror image of him, and yet they deem it a penalty and they go and book him as well. but yet they spend 2 minutes looking at a potential red card challenge where a Dundee United player boots Yakimakis in the chest, because Yakimakis is a big boy, so it takes you some amount of stretching to get up to his chest height when he's jumping as well, so or going for the ball, and they don't even book him for that. Just that's all I'm going to ask them, is like, just, it's not going to happen, but make it make sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's silly with the Giacomakis feels an interesting one, because that wasn't even a free kick. Where you actually, we were at the game, and he didn't even give a foul for that. He actually just let the game go.
Where's the word in the ear then? Where's the word in the ear then? And I'm not. I just it sounds like I'm being hypocritical here because that's a Celtic one. You do want them to stop the game then. No. But I just think when you look at the sheer volume of stoppages we've had, there's no consistency in that one. They're not getting at least some sort of second look. For that one to be so black and white in their minds of, no, that's where I'm getting confused. I've got a worry, Jonathan, about this season. I coined the term before VAR came in, but this has turned into one of these VAR asterisk seasons already where everyone's going to be talking about VAR between now and then. I'm bold of talking about it already, but it's there. And when Ange's highlighting it, that's why we're talking about it again today, because Ange was quite pissed off with it, as you rightfully say. If he's, I was going to try and say a word that was far too big there.
Exasperated.
Exacerbated. But if he's going to the fourth official and he's sort of given that, he's given that sort of vibe that he is now running out of patience, shall we say, then I think we've got to then, of course, talk about that as well, because it's very out of character for Ange, isn't it? Very out of character.
It is, and that's why I was a bit surprised to have actually seen him do that. But, I think he makes a very good point. He throws in the handball at Hearts in his post-match interviews as well. Pretty much says it's a handball anywhere apart from Tynecastle. So again, he was throwing darts, and he wasn't missing.
That's right. I forgot he said that.
He's a bit more savvy sometimes with how he goes about it, rather than actually directly attacking the referees full on, like Neil Lennon perhaps would have done if he was on the receiving end of these decisions and was still the manager now. But the VAR stuff's going to rumble on, and this is just going to get worse, if you ask me. You've got to remember, Rangers will play Celtic in January at Ibrox, and you can guarantee on your house that there will be a massive VAR call in that game. It'll go one way or the other. I think we all kind of know which way it'll probably go. But it'll go one way or the other, and there will be an absolute backlash after the game if that proves to be the decisive moment in determining who wins that fixture. And it's something they need to get themselves on top of, because Connor's right, Scottish football, it's dramatic. I think a lot of fans, they already are suspicious of refereeing decisions. Not just Celtic, but across the whole of the country, really. I think, if you went to other clubs, football fans, they'd say they don't get anything when they come to Celtic Park very often. So it's a suspicious by nature country when it comes to Scottish footballing referees. And I think adding the VAR in is just going to heighten that sense of, well, they're just making these decisions to try and sabotage my club. And some of the VAR decisions really aren't helping themselves, because I felt the handball on with Connor, I don't understand what else he's meant to do there. How on earth it can possibly be a booking, as if he's deliberately handballed that, as if he's meant, I'll just turn my back on it, I'll get a whack, as if he somehow meant that. It's quite frankly ridiculous. And then, as I say, the Giacomakis one is a red card for me. And the fact it's not, I know it's not VAR, but the fact the referee doesn't even give a foul shows how inept our referees actually are across the board. And if you've got the same silly billies on the pitch that cannot spot that as a free kick, let alone a VAR check for a red card, then we're in trouble. And it's the same guys like that are in your trucks watching things back. How can you possibly have any confidence in this?
Yeah, it's strange. It's strange, Connor. I mean, the other thing that Jonathan's touching on is the derby that obviously will play at New Year's time now. What might be the saving grace is we might be far enough ahead. It makes no fucking odds how much they want to help them. Do you know what I mean? Because we might be. But I mean, if this was a neck and neck title race, which it could still be, I can't see it personally, but that's again by the by, it could still be. That does raise, the intensity towards one of these scenarios with a VAR. And I just think in the long run, Michael McDonald wants to know, does anyone like it? Do you think we will gain in the long run? I think it might need this season to get it out of the system. Have guys like Ange Postecoglou, who's mild-mannered, pretty much just cares about what Celtic do in the park, doesn't get involved in this shit. I think if he's calling it out now, and we have this first season of loads of examples of shite decisions, you would think that's it out their system, and it's been exposed and it's been called out that they can't keep going back to that well of getting it wrong. I understand people's suspicions. I've got no issues with them. I totally get it. But surely deep down, VAR does give you stronger arguments to say that is completely a biased decision, or if you want to call it cheating, or if you want to call it corruption. Surely the good thing with VAR is it gives you all these different angles, it gives you all these different replays, it gives you more people in the firing line for these bits of judgment, as opposed to just one referee having an off day. When you've now got that, I mean, all you need to do is then build up over a season a body of decisions that you're going, well, how could VAR not get that? And I wonder if Michael's got a point that in the long run, it could actually work in Celtic's favour. I mean, I liked the idea before. Remember, we used to all say last season, wait till VAR comes in, they'll be fucked, they'll not get all those penalties. Little did we know, obviously, we'd go for the Poundland VAR, Connor Carr.
I know what you mean. I was the exact same. I was stupidly naive, even like a couple of days before VAR came in, thinking, oh, as soon as it comes in, they'll be fucked. They won't get as many penalties. There won't be as many red cards flying about. And so far, since it's been introduced, the only VAR decision that's went in Celtic's favour was when we were 2-0 up and cruising against Libby to Tony Macaroni. Which,
and that'll be the evening itself out mantra, won't it?
That'll be
the evening itself out.
That's where I need to give Mark Kearney some serious props, because he made this prediction the day I think I was on as well, and we were talking about the absolute honking decision at Tynecastle, and he says that they will balance it out by giving Celtic decisions when they're 2-3-0 up cruising against, you know, the smaller teams, and it makes literally no bearing on the result. But, you know, when it comes to, you know, the fine margins, like if, say for instance, Dundee United get that red card and get that player sent off, we could be 3-0 up, 4-0 up, cruising half time, or if we even get the free kick and score for the free kick, it could be a lot better. If they don't get that penalty, it could be a completely different, you know, game we're talking about there. But see, the only thing I'm concerned about is people are like, oh, give it to the end of the season, but I've got out their system, they'll have, you know, learned their lessons from it or whatever. Or what happens if next season we come back and it's the exact same and it's just as bad? What do we have to do then? Because we're already calling it out, and what happens then?
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, it could be never ending then, but I think if they were to continue in the road that they are right now, and I do think there's more to come, by the way, I think there is more of these decisions to come. I think, Jonathan, you're right to be looking ahead to the derby and go, I can see this movie a mile away. But I also think if it ain't enough, you know, to stop this Celtic juggernaut of faith, they might go, fuck, you can't be beaten anyway. There's no point, because your professionalism and your actual standing in the game just becomes absolutely ridiculous. You lose all credibility. Right now, they can hide behind teething problems. We all know that. And I've seen someone in the comments saying smoke and mirrors. I get that. I like to try and be positive about most things. I think VAR at times is used better in England now. If you remember their first season with it, it was a bit of a shambles as well. And we can't get away from that. There was no Celtic involved then. And obviously, I'm sure it's been the same in other leagues, but obviously England's the one that we shine a light more on, because we're fed match of the day before we can even watch sports scene in Scotland and stuff like that. So, you know, it's naturally a league we watch a lot more of. It's took a while to get better. I mean, Strange Love, overall, I totally agree with this. He likes VAR, shines a light on players' actions on the field, and if there is any, it exposes bias and aptitude cheating off the field. That's what I would be saying. I'm pretty much agreeing with you there, Strange Love. You know, it's one of those things, we don't want to dwell on it too much. There was one player I want to talk about for Saturday, though, right? I want your thought on this, John, because he scored the fourth goal. I've got a theory about Abada now, right? I think Abada is like, what was it? Was it fucking Quality Street Sweeties? Magic moments. That's what he is all about, Jonathan. He's one of these players. He's never going to be through the whole 90 minutes. He's not often you go, oh, Abada's terrorising them from minute 1 to minute 90. He can drift out of games at times. And then he just has moments. I know he didn't score the winner, and massive kudos to Kyogo for coming back and seeing what it meant to him. He looked proper pumped up after he scored it as well. You know, he needed that. He needed that big time. But on Abada, I think he springs to life at times. You know he's going to score. I could tell he was scoring. You just knew the way he was running was with that real purpose. And the finish was so naughty. He's someone I think is going to have a highlight reel over his career that will remind you of Tom Rogic. Goals in big games, right? Goals in big games. And there'll be times I think Abada will frustrate us. He's a young player as well, by the way, so inconsistency comes naturally when you're a winger, let alone a young winger. But I think he's a player we can look forward to having a lot of magic moments. He likes a goal against our rivals, as we already know. But even that fourth goal there, he just came to life. And when he's running down, he's closing down in on goal. I knew he was scoring. He just had this sort of wee spring in his step. Other times when he's got even more time in the ball, he can look like he's run out of ideas and not have that same purpose. But magic moments, that's what I think Abada is going to be bringing Celtic for, hopefully in the next good few years.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you there. I think he's one of those players who doesn't want too much time to actually have to think about what he's going to have to do. He's much more of an instant impact sort of attacker. The less time he has to think about what he's going to do with the ball, the better he actually is. His goal was extremely well taken, and you're right, obviously it wasn't the winner, but he celebrated it like it was the winner. He's running down to the corner, tops off, jumping into the crowd. I'm like, you're doing it 4-2, mate. I'm like, what's going on here? Did the last one not count?
For all you knew, Jonathan, for all you knew, you might have been like, did that last one get the
how many Long Island iced teas have I had? Has he been on them? I'm sure it's 4-2. I'm sure it's 4-2. Double checking that scoreboard.
We Kyogo be like, fucking stealing my thunder, you bastard. But he's got magic moments in him though, Jonathan, like that. That is very much what he's about, I think.
No, I would 100% agree, and I think he's proven he certainly enjoys the game against our rivals. He's had Barisic on toast pretty much every time he's went up against them. I think for Abada, I think the frustrating thing for him this season will be he's not really made the impact he'd have wanted to in the Champions League. He's been one of the players I would say that hasn't hit the heights at that level, which, as you say, is understandable. He's a young player. He may well just take him a bit of time to get up to that sort of speed of things. But if you were asking me if there's somebody who I felt had more in his locker to offer at that level, I'd say Abada was right up there as one of the ones who didn't really get anywhere near the heights he's shown domestically at Champions League football. I think he wasn't the only one. There was a lot of them, of course. But I think Abada, for me, there was so much more for him to offer at that level. And, hopefully if we win the league this year, which we're looking very likely to do, that he'll be able to correct that next season. But I would imagine, for Abada, domestic football is his bread and butter. He can tear the league up. He's better than anything that he's going to come up against defensively in this league. No defender can match him in Scotland. So I would imagine he could go on a scoring crusade between now and the end of the season. And it's interesting with us obviously being out of Europe and obviously the negative vibes that come with that of not having any European games to look forward to after Christmas. You're looking at it and you're thinking, well, Celtic don't have any European distractions now, and Ange Postecoglou's primary focus is now on the league, which I always felt he was trying to kind of keep one eye on Europe so far this season, and I think that was a lot of the reasons behind a lot of his rotation in the other games. He doesn't need to do that as much now, Russell. And I think he might well put the foot right down on the accelerator, and Celtic could tear away this season.
Let's talk about that though, Connor, because Pete Scally Music comes in. Great to have you on the bus, Pete. He's saying 7 players all capable of starting in the front 3. I know we focused a bit on Abada there, but when you look at it, the bigger picture, that is a ridiculous amount of options for that front 3, isn't it? And all of them bring, a skill set that's slightly different to the other, and all of them contribute. They all contribute massively to what we're trying to do. The options there to try and pick what is the best front 3 out of that. I think we've got 135 watching live, and it wouldn't surprise me if there was about I don't know how many different combinations you can get from 7 players in 3 positions. Let's say 20 different combinations. I think you could get, people given good reason for that being the best front 3, and you haven't to kind of take notice of it and go, yeah, I see your point with that one actually. It's an exciting attack that Ange has built, and I still think we might sign a central striker, a centre forward in January. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, if we keep getting players, the same caliber that we have now for the attacking areas and the front three, just keep giving us more, because I don't think you can get enough good attacking players, because they all can contribute in different ways, and as we've seen previously, injuries can happen, and they can happen at the most crazy times and totally derail seasons. So the more backup we have, the better. But I feel we're in a really positive place with the players that we have, because if one in one position where it's a striker, so if Yakimakis is going for a little bit of a bad patch, I don't think he had his best game against Dundee United, Kyogo comes in, scores the winner. Kyogo at start of the season wasn't having his best
His form dipped. His form
dipped massively. And then, Yakimakis came in and was scoring goals. Jota's just came back and is scoring and contributing. Haksabanovic got his first 2 goals. James Forrest, a player who many of us thought was finished at this level and was finished as a Celtic player, has came in and scored, I think, 4 goals now.
I know.
Daisen Maeda, while his numbers may not be best, I feel coming on specifically as an impact sub, with his pace and his effort levels, is frightening for a lot of tired back lines that, with the way that Celtic play and the way they constantly press. If you've been playing against, a Kyogo and a Jota and Haksabanovic for 80 minutes, and you see Daisen Maeda come on the pitch,
exactly.
You fucking shit yourself.
That's a great point.
For 10 minutes. Well, I think it's how many actually just 90 minutes we're going to get now to the end of the season, because there's always going to be added time because of the VAR decision now. So there's always going to be extra time in these games.
Yep.
So that's longer for these players to come on and possibly make an impact. So I think it's a really healthy position that we're in, but, complacency is the one that kills you. So I'm hoping that the Celtic board, and the way that Andrew's talking at the AGM the other day, and they're looking to actively make some good deals in the transfer market and kind of do what we did last January, and maybe even to a higher extent, and really push the ball out, which would be something I think we'd all like to see.
Well, definitely. I think credit to, I think it was the Swiss Ramble got credit on Hail 67. I caught a wee bit of their show earlier with Hamish, and he obviously knows how to do all the graphics and that, Jonathan. We'll get there one day. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. But he had brought up, what the revenue was for the Champions League, because I think it's the Swiss Ramble, very good Twitter account to follow, because they do extensive sort of threads on club accounts and things with no favour or bias whatsoever. And I think we've dwarfed what Rangers have made in the Champions League already this year. I think they're around, my memory could be setting me wrong, but I think it was 29.1 million it looks like Celtic have made, not including tickets, obviously the ticket packages and obviously the hospitality seats as well. So that could be another 5-6 million to add to that. So it'd be 35 million. It looks like Gio might have had a point. Looks like Rangers have maybe made about 21. Add in theirs, but that'll take them up to about 4 million, about 25 million. So there is a 10 million disparity there. We win the league again this year. There's another one of that, because there was a new payment I didn't know about, and it's called the 10-year coefficiency point. And this is where the gulf is came, because for the last 10 years, we've competed in European football of some sort for the past decade. Therefore, we've accumulated X amount of points, and it got us 9.1 million of that overall windfall. Obviously, for reasons we all know, the other fellas didn't have much in the 10-year coefficiency pot, because naturally...
You mean that the Petrofat Cup didn't count as a European competition?
Didn't count, mate. Didn't count. So it will be interesting if we make the Champions League again, which obviously we're confident to do. And we obviously I need to start planning in January, like Ange was last January. There's a lot of money coming into Celtic right now, but the facts are there. I mean, we can really firstly put our foot, put it to bed, any sort of domestic sort of real challenge, unless they go all out again, which I don't think. I think that well is ran dry. I now think Celtic could, disappear into the distance again if they get the recruitment right, like Connor's talking about in January, with that extra revenue from the Champions League, and that 10-year coefficient might be a wee bit more than 9.1. It might be 10 million, because we appeared at least in the Champions League you know, and I know that's all we pretty much did and got 2 draws, but I wonder if now we're beginning to see, like, you know, come January, it could be a case of it's pretty much going to be the funds. We could be double digits ahead by that point. These are all ifs and buts. Say we were, you know, Celtic can then start looking at being proactive in the market, you know, and really backing Postecoglou for the Champions League this time next year. That excites me. But yeah, I found the revenue that we brought in quite interesting.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a lot of money to be bringing in. I didn't know all of those figures there as to how much we'd actually made, but it's certainly an encouraging sign and goes to show how important Champions League football is to a club like us. Touching upon January will be an interesting one because I think Celtic probably are going to have actually increased their lead by the time January comes around. Just looking at the trajectories both clubs are on at the moment, the only way I can see is this points gap getting bigger. I might be proven wrong there, but if we were to say be 10, 11 points clear when January opens, my concern could be there that the board could potentially start to ease off the gas, possibly because we've seen them do it before.
Yeah, that's fair.
Where they feel like you know, there's not as much of a challenge there, and they don't need to put in as much of an effort because Celtic, historically over the last 10 years, have always kind of almost done everything as to what Rangers have been doing. I feel happens quite regularly. I think the difference has been when Ange Postecoglou's been in. However, Ange Postecoglou needed back because he had to win the championship back from Rangers. And credit to the board, they have backed him well. But if it starts getting to the point where Celtic look like they're back in cruise control domestically and there isn't a title challenge forthcoming in January, the concern there for me would be that the board might then just decide, well, we'll just keep the chips and we won't spend in January. I also think they'll probably look at squad depth. There's probably, whilst we're saying it's great to have all these different options, the board could take another look at it and think we've maybe got too many options for a club that's not playing in Europe in the second half of the season. And I think Ange Postecoglou is talking possibly about letting 1 or 2 go naturally to try and improve the squad, which he might well need to do to try and improve it if he's wanting to get that big money signing, if that's how the board are looking at it. And I think that is something we have to be aware of because historically, as I say, Celtic tend to react to the sort of position domestically rather than looking at what's going on in Europe. There's a reason Celtic haven't won a knockout game in any European competition after Christmas since 2004. And I think that's because the board constantly just look over what's going across the city rather than having bigger visions for the club, if you like, as to what they could actually do you know, on a grander scale in Europe. Connor, would you kind of fall into that camp? Do you expect us to be doing a lot of strengthening in January if we were in a position where the league title is almost in the bag?
I don't think you can ever really predict what the Celtic board will do. However, I feel like, now obviously we don't know Ange personally, but what we can gather from him as a manager and as a person from his interviews and all the rest of it, he seems pretty on the level and he doesn't tend to fuck about with, you know, saying, oh, we're maybe going to sign this person, you know, watch here, what's we're going to do. If we're looking to sign players and he says we're looking to sign players, we're probably going to sign some players. And he said that, and he said we're going to sign 1 or 2, maybe let 1 or 2 go. So I think we're going to get maybe like a nice balance, you know, maybe 1 out, 2 in, 2 out, 3 in, something like that. But also it depends who goes out, the figures we get for it. You know, there's a lot of factors that, you know, we can't predict yet, but I'm hoping that we have a very similar January transfer window to last season, and that will, you know, hopefully maybe wake up on. I mean, they're getting early, and he's getting earlier and earlier by telling us what he's hoping to do. You know, these leaks for the transfers. Maybe we'll wake up on Christmas Day and the new Japanese boy will have signed a contract. You know, but you know, I think there's a lot of mitigating factors that, you know, we don't know yet, but I'm pretty hopeful.
Yeah, no, I think he makes some fair points. Yeah, I think certainly when it comes to January window, last year was very successful in the sense that we got the business done early, which was really refreshing. It was probably the best January transfer window we've had in a very long time. I can't remember when we've been that proactive in a January transfer window in very, very long time, as I say. And it's looking like he might well be trying to get the business done early again with the rumours of the Japanese centre-half coming in. There's talk of him looking at another striker as well. Obviously, the fact I'm just kind of caveating it in the AGM, Russell, by saying a couple might go. Are you expecting Celtic to hold on to everyone in January? I know January tends to be a month where we don't sell anyone for big money. This year's a bit different with
this
the World
time.
Cup
Yeah.
being on right before it.
We've got to sell, Jonathan, at peak moments. Players' valuations will peak after a World Cup. That has been a known thing. It's just always been in the summer that the World Cup's been up to now. So yeah, that does give the January window a sort of new entity about it. It's completely different this time because when it's fresh in the memory, fresh in the mind, someone's had a good World Cup, that's where their value peaks, unless they go into a bigger club and do better things, whatever. But in general, I think for a club like ours that have players playing in Scotland, for us to get maximum value, a brilliant World Cup for a Juranovic, for example, or a good World Cup, a good showing there, of course that would do wonders for his value that he's not going to get, valued at for winning a treble this year, for example, So once you wait to the summer, it's the January's got a different entity. We were talking about it at length yesterday in the Sunday sesh with the Bold Terry Rob, the Logs were on. It was class, man. And we were saying that, Ange used that word, agile in the transfer market. Agile means a two-way street. Some might be going in, some might be going out, some might be coming in. And that will be because he's improving the quality overall. I look forward to seeing all that. I think his ambitions match mine. And I don't mean mine because mine are important or anything. I don't mean it like that, but just as a fan, the ambitions, I think Celtic's sitting there as a real opportunity to go on and has a real opportunity to start finally fulfilling that potential we all know it has. In January, why not start in January? Why not?
Well, January really should always be the window we look at as being the most important in some ways because it gives you a bit of a bedding in period, particularly if we get into a position, which I think we could, where we are almost clear in the league. That's certainly there for Celtic. Celtic win all their games up to when the January window opens. Even if Rangers did manage to go on a run, that would still be 10 points if we won at Ibrox. If both teams won all their games up until then. So that becomes almost an impossible task for Rangers to bridge if we were to be 10 plus points clear when that window opens. And then that gives you a bit of time to bed new players in. Then that gives you the summer as well to have a full pre-season with Ange Postecoglou, which, it certainly seems like the players benefit because he is the type of coach that likes to be out on the training ground developing the players. That's sort of his bread and butter, that side of things, Ange Postecoglou. He likes the fact when Celtic are only playing at the weekends like they were at the start of this season. And it was no coincidence Celtic were getting big wins, at the start of the season before the European games kicked in, and he kind of had to try and juggle the squad a bit more, and he maybe got some things not quite right in terms of team selections in a couple of those games as a result of that. But I think if you can get players in January, then it can make a big difference just because it gives them that bedding in period, as I say, up into the summer, and they're also getting the full then summer pre-season with Ange Postecoglou as well for hopefully another tilt at the Champions League with the way this season is looking like going. So I think that would be really important for us. That the problem you have with Celtic is they quite often end up leaving their business quite late historically. However, under Ange Postecoglou, it has been refreshingly different thus far, and I can only hope that continues.
Well, definitely. And then, obviously, guys, the thing is, talk about the World Cup, still a couple of games before then. Wednesday, feel confident. We'll do a proper preview on the Breakfast Bar Wednesday morning, 8:30. Good plug, that. Good plug, Jonathan. See him get better.
It's very good. Very good.
Thanks. Connor, confident for Wednesday, mate?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. Motherwell aren't going through a great patch right now. I think they've lost their last 3 games. I'm 100% sure. Haven't looked up. Could be making up. But they're not going through a great form right now. So, I'm going to just make a prediction. I'm going to say 4-0.
4-0 right in there. Jonathan, are you confident going to Fir Park? I was hearing on the radio today, they reckon it's the best footballing surface in the country now. There you go.
Well, that would certainly suit us if that proves to be the case, you would think.
I like Fir Park, isn't it? Fir
I
Park
know,
always associated with being a shite surface.
Especially at this time of year. Usually you'd think it'd be like a mud patch, usually when you're going into the winter months, But I'm reasonably confident. I think it is one of those ones you could look at Fir Park under the lights. It could be a potential banana skin. But I just think with the way Celtic are just now and the fact there isn't any other distractions other than domestic football for Celtic to fully focus on, I would expect Celtic to get the 3 points again and really try and, as I say, put the foot down on the accelerator. I don't think they want to be in a position like they were last season where it was, that title race was up for grabs until around March, April time. I think Celtic will now try and put the foot right down on Rangers' throat and try and apply as much pressure onto them, who play Hearts, I think, at Ibrox on the same night. I think they're on Wednesday as well. So, again, that could be another one of these pivotal nights. We've seen them all happen quite a lot in Scottish football, and both teams are playing at the same time. It's not unusual for one of them to end up dropping points at 3 big moments, and you wouldn't be overly surprised if Celtic were to get their noses in front early at Fir Park, if that feeds through to Ibrox and leads to a further increase in the gap at the top. But yeah, for me, us at Motherwell, way we are playing just now, it's very hard to look past us for 3 points. And I would say it's going to be a comfortable 2 or 3 now.
Celtic smell blood. That's the way I would see it. I think they know this league's there for the taking. It's not getting. I don't like to get overly carried away, but I think right now when a team is vulnerable, and I think Rangers are vulnerable right now. That's me putting it mildly. I think they are very vulnerable. I think we will go and do what Martin O'Neill's team did, Jonathan.
Hey, what's that? 51 minutes. Almost didn't make it. He almost didn't make it. Oh, Jesus, that almost gave me a fright. I thought that was Connor making that noise. I was like, what's he doing?
No, that was our man behind the scenes, because it's time for some sudden death. Phil McGinley, there he is. What's happening, son?
Good evening, everybody. How are we all doing?
Good, mate, good.
Well, I'm awake now after that.
Have you seen much of the sudden death series yet, Connor, at the end of the Monday clubs? It's 2-1 to me in the old.
No, it's 3-1.
You're being generous. You're being generous.
I gave you a point off yourself there. It's 3-1. You won last week to go 3-1 up.
He knew that. He knew that. He just wanted me to tell him that.
Oh, right.
No, I didn't. He's talking shit. No, I didn't. I did not. But yeah, sudden death. Phil, take it away and explain to the viewers who might not have seen it, because there is over 150 live right now on a Monday night. Nice. Big thanks to you all for jumping on the bus. Some of you might not be familiar with our sudden death format. Phil McGinley, take it away.
So basically, between the Boyce'S here, it is a penalty shootout, 5 shots each. Obviously, I've got multiple answers to a question. Obviously, I'm the goalkeeper. I'm the fat cat in goal, basically. Got to put it past me. I'm quite agile at times, Sometimes I can pull a save out from nowhere. But yeah, wrong answer. Obviously, you miss the penalty. Right answer, you score the penalty. And obviously, the winner after the 5 penalties is one who scored the most. And at the moment, Russell, you're obviously 3-1 up from the 4 games that we've played so far. Obviously, last week I made a bit of an error midway through it when I tried to be like one of the chasers, when I tried to tell you the answer, like explain why that was the answer. Then I realised, oh shit, I've just kind of gave you another answer. So it caused a bit of confusion, but I can verify.
You just wanted to get involved, Phil.
Russell did win 7-6 last week, which puts him 3-1 up in the series. I can
Alfred
verify
says,
that.
Comments off.
Yes,
my comments are off.
My
now.
comments are off.
Done.
Yeah.
Comments off, indeed.
Comments
okay. So I know the answer to this already, but I need to ask every time. Russell, you won last week, so do you want to go first or second?
I think we'll go first.
First, okay. I had a feeling you're going to say that because you've made it clear, always go first. But see, just for consistency, I'll always ask that. Okay, this is a hard one because there are only 10 answers. This is the lowest it's been yet, only 10. So the margin for error will get very small very, very quickly. Okay. Question tonight is, Celtic have become quite accustomed to winning the league title in modern times, but can you name all the teams Celtic got the result against that they needed to wrap up the title since the 90s to present day? There are 10 correct answers.
Okay. St Johnstone.
Yeah, of course.
Very good. Went for it, stopping the 10. Very good, Russell.
Thank you.
Very memorable. Very memorable.
Thank you, mate.
I will take Kilmarnock. I remember us doing it a couple of times against Kilmarnock. Martin O'Neill, 304. Nakamura, Neil Lennon, remember? Neil Lennon, 5-0.
2004, 2007, 2012, Kilmarnock, correct.
Yeah.
And for clarity, St Johnstone, 1998. obviously.
Yeah,
That's the
98.
Yeah. Okay, doke.
Tommy Johnson, St Mirren. Yes.
Oh, very good.
St Mirren, 2001, 2-1 to Russell.
Mhm.
I'm going to take the team I believe we did it against the following season, which I believe was Livingston.
Oh,
Indeed, Livingston, yeah,
what a shout.
2002.
I'm taking the Martin O'Neill answers out in case you hadn't realised, just because I know you'll struggle after that.
I'm going to say, I can think of 2 occasions. Dundee United
Dundee United,
last
yeah,
season.
2008 and 2022.
2008. Aye. 2008 was a brilliant one. Won it for Tommy. That was class.
Mm-hmm.
Good nostalgia show in that season, isn't there?
Indeed.
So I think Strachan's first season was Hearts. I think John Hartson scored in a 1-0.
Hearts is correct. 2006 and 2017. Brendan's first season.
Oh, yes, of course.
Now I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't have a clue. How many more answers are there?
Well, you've got 2 kicks left each, 4, and there's only 4 answers left. I say there's only 10, so you might get a 5 each here, or, you know.
I don't know.
Probably not. Don't kid yourself on, Phil. There's no danger we're clearing up.
No, I'm taking it.
It never happens.
I'm going to need to guess. I'm going to say Dundee.
Dundee is an incorrect answer.
I don't know. It'll be one at home. Where I've not, I can't. You remember the away grounds? The ones at home are hard.
Yeah, I'm
the
struggling
2 answers have been at home.
I think there must be a couple like under Ronnie Dyla or something. I'm trying to think who they might have been against. But I'm struggling with. Oh, did we do it under Brendan? Partick Thistle under Brendan?
Not under Brendan, but we did do it under Ronnie. Partick Thistle 2014 up at
Was it
Firhill.
5-0 or something?
Oh no, John Neil Lennon up Firhill, so 2014 still Lennon, but yeah, 2014 Partick Thistle. Correct.
Oh, it's
Yeah, just Firhill. Yes, I vaguely
4-3
remember
now
that.
to
got to
Jonathan. You've got to score, Russell. You've got to score, mate.
I generally don't know. I don't think we've won it against Hibs. I'm going to say Ross County. I don't think that's right.
Ross County is wrong. Jonathan going back. It's 3-2. He doesn't know. But Jonathan,
That's
just for
tough.
fun, what would you have said if it had gone to a final point? What would you have went for?
I was thinking Motherwell, but I couldn't think of one with Motherwell either.
Motherwell would have been wrong. The 3 that he's did to get, and I'm amazed. Rangers in 2008, we thrashed them 5-0.
You absolute
Oh, of course.
wonkers.
2018.
We
The one that
always
we were
do
5-0
this.
up after 54 minutes and seemed to conveniently slow down.
The 5,
Aberdeen, 2016 and 2019, when Lenny came back as caretaker, we beat them up at Tawdry to officially become champions. And under Ronnie in 2016, we beat them at Celtic Park. And the other one you would have done really well, it was a Neil Lennon season, 2013, Inverness Caledonian Thistle was the other one.
Would you have got COVID for one of them?
Oh, well, COVID. Well, no, I was a team. Now, Russell did say Dundee. They were a team that we beat 5-0 on a Friday night game, but we didn't officially become champions to the next day when Aberdeen lost to Motherwell, because the question was obviously, who did we get the result against to make us official champions? So Dundee, in case there's people in the chat going, oh, we definitely beat Dundee to win the league one year. No, that one is a Motherwell and Aberdeen the next day caused us to win the league.
Well done, Jonathan. Good win,
Dundee,
mate. Dundee,
though. Dundee, were they not the ones who helped get us over the line in that COVID season? Were they not the ones who voted for it? When it went to the computers.
I'll take my defeat. I'll take my defeat. As long as I'm still in the lead, I'm happy with that. I am happy with that. Right. Coming up on the bus this week, we've got the breakfast bar on Wednesday morning, 8:30. I'll be joined by at least one of the Logs, maybe 2. You never know with them. Big Fury himself. And then Thursday night, the TNF, we're back. I think we'll get the judge back on. I think he's enjoying the Thursday night forum. He's going down a bit of a treat on that. So we'll get Judge Kearney back on the TNF. Phil, what's happening with nostalgia this week, mate? Even I'm in the dark.
Yeah, I haven't announced it now that Martin Neil, wait, Claxon for one more time. Russell.
Yeah,
There you you go. One more for the road, because Martin the Real month is now over, obviously. Sad times. Russell's heart breaks right now. But yeah, we've completed that. So what's coming up next? So we're going to go back to a player-specific one, or rather players, because it's going to be a player one with a twist. We're going to do something. We're going to compare two players that played at Celtic to very similar players. We're going to look at their best moments and decide at the end, really, who was better. And it's going to start with Moussa Dembele and Odsonne Edouard. It's
very good.
French connection. I like it.
And then the week after that, because also we get 2 weeks until the World Cup starts, I'm kind of leaning towards just finishing the World Cup ones and getting them done. I'm just going to have to bite the bullet and do the Vuvuzela World Cup. So that's going to be painful. But the one before the Vuvuzela, I'm going to do the Three Amigos, the 96-97 season. Ivan Hooijdonk and Del Canio. Yeah.
Oh, I am right up for that. Yeah.
Obviously, we didn't win anything that season, but it was definitely rock and roll football. You could definitely describe it as that season.
Yeah, that's class. Yeah, see, amigos, that'll be brilliant. But I think Friday that'll go down a treat, and we've got more younger people signing up to join in the bus these days, subscribing since we passed that 3,000 mark. And I think a lot of people will be intrigued by the debate between Edouard and Dembele. Who was your favourite, Connor?
Oh, I'm going to go with the old Hunskelper. Big Dembele. Different gravy. And he still looks like French Eddie was like different class like that, but like I think you can tell Moussa still holds Celtic very near and dear to his heart. Guaranteed by the fact that on Sunday he was absolutely pissing his Celtic Rangers, so
that's true. That is true. On that note, we'll call it a night. We know we've took up hours and hours of your time over the weekend, so we'll wrap it up there. Big thanks to Phil for jumping on and doing the quiz. Huge shout out to Connor Carr for joining me and Jonathan. Jonathan, it's always a pleasure to chat away with you on a Monday.
I'm coming for you. Unlike Rangers, I'm coming for you.
So you say. And to all the noise out there, I've just got 2 words, Phil. All of those naysayers, I've got 2 words. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.